guys, welcome to Office Blokes React. I'm Office Bloke Dave.
I'm Office Bloke Mike.
I'm Office Bloke Daz.
Collectively really Office Blokes.
Yep.
It is true.
Three very different Office Blokes.
Three very different Office... Yeah, I'd go with that.
I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah. Spanning a wide age gap.
You won't look at me when you say that.
Yeah, it is true.
Yeah.
And, and one of us is going to tell you about our Patreon page quickly.
Go to patreon.com, put in Office Blokes React. If you want to support the channel, you can start there. It says at just £1.50. You've got exclusive content, exclusive podcast every week for patrons only. So go down there, check it out.
Yeah, there you go. Simple as. Right, a bit of Lost in the Pond. Love this channel.
It's great.
That picture's familiar in the back.
It's familiar because it's in our office.
It is.
Yeah.
It's in the main
office.
office.
The one, I was looking at the one on the right, thinking, why is that in the office? But it's the one on the left, isn't it?
On the left, yeah, we've got that, haven't we?
Yeah. What is this? 4 ways British and American people are very different.
Very different.
Very different.
I bet there's more than 4, isn't there?
I'm sure there's loads.
There's quite a few, isn't there? But
I also think there's a lot of things we have very in common.
Yeah.
A huge amount.
Oh, without a doubt.
Massively.
I think we borrow a lot of each other's culture. Definitely. It goes both ways,
I think we've got more in common with USA, Americans, and probably any other country, I would guess, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I think we've got a lot in common with the French as well. We just don't like to admit it because we take the piss out of the French all the time. But I actually do think our cultures have crossed over for centuries and centuries, that much.
Yeah.
Maybe. The Brits and the Japanese are very similar.
Really?
No.
I don't know any Japanese, so I can't say. Anyway, we'll get into
I like
it.
Lawrence.
He's great, isn't he?
Lawrence.
Yeah.
So Lost in the Pond, 4 ways British and American people are very different. Let's do it.
America, or at least in the Midwest, my attempts at toilet humour have often been met with TMI, which to my chagrin does not mean tickle me insane, but too much information.
Have we done this?
I don't think so.
And have we queued it up for a second time and then sat there watching it going, have we done this? We'll watch a bit more, but I think we've done this.
Yeah. Okay.
Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to people. What could be more important to the foundation of a country than its people, except maybe tectonics? And one thing I can say about British people is we don't generalise, and that's why I'm doing a video called Ways British and American People Are Very Different. Believe you me, everything you hear in this video is absolutely true, except this sentence. Because in truth, it's impossible to get this video right. Both countries are made up of millions of people. No one person is the same, so some of the generalizations I'm about to make about Americans could be true of some British people, and vice versa. It's just that on the whole, pound for pound or dollar for dollar, there are certain things that separate British people from Americans. And having lived in both countries now for at least 100 years, I'm here to tell you what those things are. Here are 4 ways that British and American people are very, very different. Funnily enough, the first entry on this list doesn't require any generalizations because it's backed by hard, cold science. And by science, I mean the census. Both countries have them. And from this data, we can determine the cultural backgrounds that make up the people of Britain and America. Let's take a look at each country's top 5 ancestral groups, starting with Britain. Actually, in this case, the entire UK. 37% of us are Anglo-Saxon, which accounts for how I'm 1,500 years old. 22% of people living in the UK are of Irish descent, and this is not just the people living in Northern Ireland. Irish immigrants have been coming to Britain for hundreds of years, and if they hadn't, we wouldn't have had John, Paul and George, and the Beatles might have been named Ringo. A fifth of people living in Britain claim Western European ancestry. 9%, and I believe this minutely includes yours truly, come from a Scandinavian background, which is definitely why I'm so good at assembling IKEA furniture. 4% of people in Britain trace their ancestry to Pakistan and India. In America, the numbers are quite different, but there are some surprises along the way. Did you know that in the United States of America, the largest ancestral group... I just said ancestral, which is thankfully not a word, but you can quite imagine what it would mean. In the United States, the largest ancestral group is German. Apparently, 13.6% of Americans self-report German ancestry. And if you think that...
I think self-report is the big thing there. Because a lot of people think that there's something I'm sure there is a lot of German ancestry because they do Oktoberfest in certain places and people wear lederhosen and stuff.
It's my favourite celebration, Oktoberfest.
I've never took part in it.
I've been a few years on the row, and it's my birthday as well in October, so that's one of the reasons to celebrate Oktoberfest.
Celebration. Why not?
I've been to Stuttgart and I've been to Munich. So Stuttgart's better than Munich now, I think.
Is it really?
Yeah, for the Oktoberfest.
It's on my list of things to do.
Yeah, it's
sure.
great. So, it's there. It's only an hour and a half on the plane.
Yeah.
True, it's pretty close, isn't it?
I'm just surprised that more Americans would trace their ancestry to Germany than to England.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
Actually, yeah.
There's a place, I remember going to a place down in Brazil called Novo Hamburgo, which is New Hamburg, and that was all Germans.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Escaped after the war.
Yeah, escaped.
Yeah, well,
all the high-ranking SS that ran away went to Brazil. Yeah.
Massive shoe manufacturers, if you wanted to know.
Really?
If anyone's interested. Big shoe area where they manufacture shoes.
Wow.
For all the big names.
Very nice.
Like a Holocaust joke then. Well, back out.
Don't do that.
Back to either of the world wars, that's not entirely accurate. The majority of German Americans came here in the 19th century. So if you encounter any Americans with German sensibilities or facial structure, whatever that means, then that's why. And there's a good chance you'll encounter a German American in one of the cold states like Minnesota, Wisconsin, or the Dakotas. The second largest ancestral group in the United States are African Americans, who comprise about 12.5% of the overall population. And conversely to the German ancestry groups, the highest concentration of African Americans is in the South. And historically, of course, this is largely tied to the fact that many African Americans in the South are descendants of slaves that were kept and later freed from plantations there.
Did you see Utah then? It was like a whole white state.
This is largely tied to the fact that many African Americans in the South are descendants of slaves.
See, there's just one little pocket.
Oh yeah,
right over there.
That's black though, isn't it? It's not. What's the?
Yeah, but I think black is essentially just the PC way of saying African American.
No, what the red dots signify? I can't see any chart that says.
I think the chart's right at the bottom, but it's covered in. I can't see it properly.
The red is slave population.
Right.
Okay. And then the sort of darker the sort of green
triangle,
or whatever it is.
The triangles, aren't they?
Is the current African American population, I think.
Right, I wonder if that's Salt Lake City then, where that triangle is.
Could be, couldn't it? Yeah.
Why is there a lot of African Americans there?
I don't know. It's probably one of the biggest cities in Utah.
I get you.
That were kept and later freed from plantations there. And here's a demographic that sets America apart from Britain. It's largely governed by geography, and that's Mexican Americans. 11% of Americans self-reported Mexican ancestry, which might account for why I read the other day that Cinco de Mayo is more widely celebrated in the United States than it is in Mexico. Mind you, you might be able to say something similar about St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Every March, without fail, Americans turn green. Not literally, unless they've had too much alcohol that night. And so it's no coincidence that 10% of Americans self-report Irish ancestry. Of course, if you're like me and you're 1,500 years old and an Anglo-Saxon, there's a very good chance that some Americans will be quick to tell you that they have a little bit of you in them. Not like that. I just mean a little bit of English, right? 7% of Americans self-reported English ancestry. That was an abbreviated look at the ancestral makeup of both countries, and for not having the time to discuss all groups in...
Yeah, can't discuss all groups, but I'm surprised Italian America's right up there. I always thought there was like quite a large Italian sort of like influence over there.
It's probably the
I'm sure there is,
East Coast again, though, isn't it? It's probably quite a specific location.
Very regionalised that.
Yeah. Okay.
But also that's self-reporting, and bear in mind that they got independence from the English years ago. So I think more of the population would be less inclined to self-identify as English descent because of the given, the history.
You think the self-identifying is sometimes what they like to perceive as being sort of being an ancestor.
Yeah, like your great-great-great-great-granddad might have been English and come over, but now at this point you're just American.
Yeah.
You're not going to self-identify. But if it was a DNA test,
you do your ancestry, don't you? Yeah, you find that you've got a percentage of DNA that's from... I've got Norwegian DNA.
I'm going to do mine. I'm going to do it soon, I think.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious.
There's another one that's popped up now just for England.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Ask Gaynor what it is. She knows she's got one.
Right. Okay.
But the you know what you said about the days to celebrate, like Cinco de Mayo, and we're talking Oktoberfest, things like that, and St. Patrick's Day. Ours is just bypassed, and no one even gives a shit anymore.
St. George's Day.
St. George's Day
I know,
was 3 days ago.
It's a bit of a disgrace, really, isn't it? It really is. Nothing's done about that.
I saw the parade. I saw the parade in Manchester. It was great.
Yeah.
The parade. All Lambrettas came out. You know, the scooters.
I think you get it in a few pubs here and there, don't you? That do try and celebrate. But as a country, you know, the government don't do anything about it, do they?
Nothing.
To try and push
Zero.
it
No,
at
no,
all.
you're right about
You know,
that.
it's absolute. I think it's a disgrace.
Queen's
It
Jubilee,
really is.
absolutely everywhere.
I know.
St. George's Day, patron saint of England, and nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah.
Nothing.
Didn't get mentioned.
Joke.
I had a
No.
barbecue on Saturday, and my dad came round, and he was like, you know, what made you throw a St. George's Day barbecue? And I went, I forgot it was St. George's Day. I just wanted a barbecue. That was it. You know, I literally, even I didn't think.
Yeah.
One video, I apologise, but then that would probably be very British of me. Let's take a look at some of the unique tendencies of the people of both countries. If there's one thing that really sets people apart, it's how polite they are and how fun they are at parties. And don't worry, I'm not about to extol the virtues of the famed British politeness while asserting that Americans are rude, because that's not my experience. There are rude people in both countries, but that rudeness usually manifests in a very similar way and wouldn't make for a very entertaining video. Actually, it might. Can we put it on the list? The truth is, people in both countries know how to be polite when they want to. The difference here is the manner in which they do it. In my experience, British people will go to greater lengths to let you know that they're listening. What do I mean by this? Well, you're talking to me. Not literally, you're watching a video, but let's say you are talking to me. You're conveying very important information right now, and so in between every single word, I'm going to go, yes, 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 yeah, oh, yeah, definitely, yeah. I'll stop now. That's essentially the way it goes. As a result, the conversation ends up being twice as long, and all of those efforts to display that you were listening meant that you didn't hear a bloody thing. British people are very good at that, and I should know, because I'm very good at that, aren't I? Right? We're also good at adding on tag questions. That's when we make a statement, but in order to not appear confrontational, we add on a little question at the end. So, for example, Marmite is brilliant, isn't it? Americans would never do that. They'd simply state Marmite is awesome. That's never going to happen. I remember when I visited home last year and we were in a restaurant and the staff apologized profusely to my wife because I can't remember why, but I remember it not being warranted in the least. The point is, British politeness is often governed by the need to save face. That's not a reference to the A-team. Don't get me wrong, it's also about being friendly, but in America, I think that's all it's about. I very rarely feel like Americans are trying to let me down gently. They just tell me I suck outright. I'm joking. It could be argued that Americans in this sense are just more practical, much like their dress sense. It's hard to talk about people without talking about the clothes they wear. For example, when have you ever seen me without clothes? No, those videos were taken down about 4 years ago. Not by me, by YouTube. On the other hand, it's almost impossible to paint an accurate picture of the clothing choices of both countries' populations. But there are some clothing items you'll see preventing people being naked in one country and not the other. That was really poorly worded. So in America, people might, for example, be recognizable by the fact that they're wearing a flannel shirt, particularly in some of the northern states which have extreme cold, and Germans. Moreover, Americans are more likely to wear sweatpants in public. The sweatpant people, which is an ancestry group that I forgot to mention, sometimes meet up at the gym, but more often Walmart. In Britain, we all just dress like Charlie Chaplin. At least the Charlie Chaplin impersonators do, but there's an emphasis in Britain on style. And this is a luxury that we can afford because, unlike America, we don't have weather that can kill bacteria. So depending on where you are, it might not be that unusual to see, say, a woman dressed more or less like Kate Middleton, and that includes Kate Middleton. Of course, we're talking cheaper versions of Kate Middleton's wardrobe, or at least I am. Now, before I get carried away, I do not want...
I own quite a few flannel shirts.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I've seen you wearing flannel shirts. Yeah. You fit that profile of lumberjack, redneck.
I thought that was more like a well, like in the south sort of thing, sort of style.
Warmer in the south, though, isn't it?
Well, lumberjacking.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Lumberjacking in the north, isn't it? Like in Canada and all places like that.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, it got ruined in this country by hipsters, and that's why I stopped wearing them for a bit, and I'm like easing them back in.
In like 80s and 90s, it was huge fashion over here, wasn't it?
It's come back in.
Wearing
it's
a
back
big,
in now.
thick lumberjack shirts.
It's in at the moment.
Is it?
Yeah.
Bugger.
You're fashionable, Dave.
I'll stick to my OB stuff that I wear all the time instead.
To get the impression that all British people are super stylish, right? I'm doing this video in my underpants. The thing I would say is that our casual clothes or our comfort clothes tend to be less baggy than they are in the United States. And we probably wear fewer baseball caps and more polo shirts. I told you British people like me don't like to generalize. I think in America...
We were talking about the other day about fashion, and we were saying like you see the odd thing here and there of like we don't see as much like American football gear over here. But you get the odd random. I was walking in the match the other day. There was a guy in front of me with a New York Giants coat on.
Wow.
Like, massive like puffer coat sort of thing, yeah. And then there was a guy with a Green Bay woolly hat on. And I'm in a t-shirt. One guy's got a massive coat on, the other guy's got a woolly hat on. I went with my t-shirt.
Is it one of those things where, like, when you start looking at buying a car, you see the car everywhere?
Yeah.
Do you think that's what it is? You've noticed it more?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I always know it's always like random teams, or it's like, you know, you don't get like, you won't get a Buffalo Bills sort of thing. It's just them seem to be like them taking the same 4 teams, San Francisco, Miami, New York and Green Bay.
Yeah.
Do you think it's done more as a fashion thing over here than as a follower of the
they look
team?
shit.
I know, but you see a lot of like sort of rappers and stuff wear NFL team stuff, like hats especially.
I can see a baseball cap wearing that, or an NFL shirt or a basketball shirt. I get that. This guy had like a massive New York Giants coat on that looked like a manager's coat,
wearing it at an inappropriate time of the year.
Yeah, when it's like
it was quite warm at weekend.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I just thought it was suspicious then.
Yeah.
Up to no good. Try to sneak something in the ground.
I see, yeah.
Baggy clothes are more accepted because A, there are harsh winters, and B, Americans place more emphasis, I think, on comfort. That's why you'll see Americans way into their 70s still wearing sneakers with jeans. My grandfather-in-law did that all the time, and I think if you saw that in Britain, that person would be considered eccentric, which, since we're talking about Britain, 50% of the...
There is that look as well, I noticed. When I was in America, obviously, like I said, Vegas is the only place I've been, so it's completely skewed.
Yeah.
But a lot of people were doing the kind of khaki shorts tucked into the polo shirt with the white socks pulled up. You know, that like
sandals.
Full American.
That was just your group.
Not mine. No.
Not just you.
I mean that full. There's an American tourist look, you know, where someone fully has lent into the comfort, the white trainers, the socks pulled up,
leather shirt.
There's literally a
Or
look.
like say sandals with white socks on. That is the look.
Did he say then about wearing trainers with what?
Jeans.
What, jeans? That's all I wear.
Same.
I think he was saying if you got into like your 70s or 80s, you'd be classed as sort of like eccentric. But I think it's more. I think people do more over here now. It's not like it was years ago where you got to that age and you put a cardigan on and a pair of trousers or anything.
I went to a basketball game at Madison Square Garden, and the guy who met me at Madison Square Garden, he was like one of the sales directors there, and he come and sat with us for a bit, and he had a full suit on with a pair of Air Jordans, and I thought he looked brilliant.
Oh, it can be with the right suit.
Really good.
With the right suit, it can be a good
But he was
look.
like, he was like that trendy sort of like. I think one of them though. I think you've got to be early 20s, maybe mid 20s to pull that off.
Yeah,
this guy was sort of like a little bit out of that area, but it did look good on him.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, if you're a salesman driving up and down the motorway, driving a 3 Series Beamer, and you get out with a suit on and trainers, and you're probably like mid 40s, 50s. People are going to go, he's sleeping in his car.
Them trainers I wear. When we went to that funeral a few weeks ago, and I had them shoes I had on. Everyone was like, "You got trainers on with a suit?" I'm like, "Not trainers."
Yeah.
And I said to my 2 sons, I went, "What are these?" They went, "Shoes." I went, "There you go."
Fair
validation
enough.
From the teenagers.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
That person would be considered eccentric, which, since we're talking about Britain, 50% of the population is eccentric. And if you thought that observation was funny, then you're very easily amused. You put the U in humour, especially if you're British. You may recall a while back I did a video on British versus American humour, but this focused on the televisual differences. Today, we're talking about people. There have been numerous times in my life when I've laughed my absolute arse off in the company of both Brits and Americans, to the extent that I can no longer comfortably sit down. But it's hard to deny that British people have a different sense of humour to American people. It's also a little hard to define what that difference is. Americans often write in the comments that they love my dry British humour, and I always find it amusing that we have dry British humour, because we also have wet British forecasts. But when you're talking to a British person, there are two ways that the humour can go. Either that politeness that we talked about earlier goes out of the window and gets rained on, or there arises something known as self-deprecation. In the first instance, a good friend of mine might jokingly remark, "All right, Lawrence, you wanker." I don't know too many Cockney people. Or in the second case of self-deprecation, a British person might say something like, "I'm Lawrence and I'm a big wanker." That is a terrible example. It's basically when people put themselves down for comedic effect. It's a powerful tool, but it's not a tool often wielded by Americans who, I don't know, maybe they see it as a weakness. I've also found that Americans are less into their toilet humour, and maybe that means they're more mature. It does mean that, doesn't it? The sweatpant people notwithstanding. Whereas toilet humour is basically how British people communicate. Of course, this was once successfully parodied by Mike Myers, the comedian, not the serial killer. But in America, or at least in the Midwest, my attempts at toilet humour have often been met with TMI, which to my chagrin does not mean tickle me insane, but too much information. On the other hand, I think your average American is pretty good at wielding observational humour. A favourite weather-related saying, and I've heard this in various states, is, "If you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes." And they've got a point. Left my laundry hanging outside this morning. Tornado took it away. That's it for this episode. Let me know in the comments below if you've observed some of these characteristics of British and American people. And if you want to hear/read more from this British person, then why not follow me on Twitter at...
Do it.
Very good. Yeah, great channel.
Great channel. The sense of humour one's an interesting one.
Very much so, yeah. We've been doing loads lately, haven't we? Loads of US comedians, and we absolutely love it. It's, like I say, it's difficult to define what the difference is.
I think it's topical related, that. I think it's topic related. I think there's certain things I talked about when I was in the USA to people and they just didn't get it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then some people take what you're saying a little bit too serious. Do you know what I mean? You'd be joking, and people would be like, "I'm not sure if he's joking."
It's
or
like
not.
the dry sense of humour we've got. This,
right? Be like, "I'm not sure about that," and it's too late then. But when you go to stand-up comedy and they're talking about topical stuff that might have happened to pretty much everybody, it becomes funny because you know it's a joke, and that's sometimes it's sort of like taking out of context.
Joke, and
I think it's just taken out of context sometimes with the the dry sense of humour against the is he serious or not?
That I think we're pessimistic to a degree as a nation. And it seems like Americans are a bit more optimistic.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
I think so,
and I think when we're self-deprecating, a lot of the times they might think we're being serious, and they're like, their optimism would be, "No, you're not, buddy," and try and cheer you up when you're putting yourself down, and it's like, no, it's a bit.
Yeah,
like I'm all right. I'm just taking the piss out of myself because that's what we do.
Even when you refer to people, you can talk, and I could be talking to you and say, "Mike, he's a right clown," meaning he's a funny guy. Sort of thing in that way. But people might go, "Why is he a clown?"
Yeah, he's got some sort of beef. We need to talk about it.
Big red nose and a big fit.
Yeah, it's a little bike he comes to work on. Massive shoes he wears.
I do think our pessimism and cold weather, and we love a moan in this country, don't we?
We think the worst is going to happen, but hope for the best, don't we? So that's where the pessimism comes from.
That's helped us get through centuries and centuries of torment and
wars and stuff like that.
Else,
definitely.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think it's just a very different sort of like subject matter when the sense of humour's come in.
I think, like you said, context is the thing. If you're at a comedy show in America and the comedian's being self-deprecating, you've got permission to laugh because you know it's a joke. In the street, it's like, mate.
I think in the main, a lot of the comedy travels pretty well though both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think it does.
Yeah. You see it sometimes in our comment section. People don't get what we refer to. One guy was putting down one of the videos we did. One guy said, "I didn't understand what was going on because I'm stupid," and I said, "I think it was your sense of humour you didn't get, mate." My sense of humour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't know when
That's not stupid. It's just taste, isn't it?
Right.
Of course it is.
And a bit of stupidity.
It's making humour out of something that wasn't interesting.
Yeah.
They're not getting it.
It wasn't the clock video,
it
was
was.
it?
Yeah.
I knew it. Yeah, some people watching us for the first time seeing something like that might not get that it's all just jokes. We're just taking the piss out of everything. Sometimes we get deep, but more often than not, we're making
It's
jokes.
just a bit of gentle ribbing, isn't it? And,
exactly.
Yeah. Mickey taking.
Yeah, but I do like Lawrence, so I think he's
great.
He does a very good analysis of the USA and the UK.
Yeah.
He does like his style.
Hope you guys enjoyed it too. Don't forget, like and subscribe, hit the bell, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers. Guys.